create a Java project called Gr11Nov2012Paper in your exam drive. Use your full name for the name of the package. Create a new class called client, which will store the class for a single Gr11Nov client. Our first step is to create the project, Java category, project Java application. Next, it should be in your exam folder, and I must call it Gr11Nov2012Paper as asking the question. Make sure that you do not create the main class because we want to rename the package. So we say finish, and there is our project. If you go to source package, you will see that there is no package. Right click and say new Java package and save it as your surname so that we can see who's writing this program, and finish. Our first class should be client, which is a single client class, and it must be saved in the package folder. So right click and say new Java class, and it should be called client. Make sure that it is in the Gr11Nov2012Paper project folder and in the Smith package. Finish, and there you go, ready to continue. The class must have the following fields or instance variables: membership number, name, surname, and fees. Then you have to create a parameterized constructor, meaning it must receive parameters in brackets, to generate the membership number, to accept the name and surname as parameters, to assign a value of 400 Rand to the fees owing by the member. Firstly, let's start with the instance variables. It should be declared as private because the variables are encapsulated, protected inside the class. The first one is membership number. Make sure that you write it with a lowercase m because it's a variable name. Private string name, private string surname, and lastly private int fees because it receives an integer number. Now to construct the constructor, it should be the same name as the class name because that is the convention for constructors. Public, it doesn't return anything, so it's not string or any return type. It's also not void. We just say private client, left brackets, right brackets, begin. Okay, we said it is a parameterized constructor, therefore it needs to receive values in brackets. The question says it will receive the name and the surname, and we just use the N and the S as parameters, which we will immediately link up to name and surname. So the first parameter name sent through the variable N will be stored inside the class instance variable, the field name, and the next one, the surname, S, the parameter will be stored into the instance variable surname, which is declared at the top as an instance variable. Then we will initialize the fees by giving it a value of 400 Rand. And lastly, we will generate the membership number. We haven't written the algorithm yet to generate the membership number, so we will just say gen number and left and right brackets. Right. So far so good. Code a method that will accept the client's name as parameter and create a membership number using the first 3 letters of the client's name followed by the 3 randomly generated digits. The method must return the membership number. Let's write the method generate membership number, gen number. We have to use the first 3 letters of the name followed by 3 random numbers after that. To use the name, we can use the class instance variable name, but the question specifically specifies that we should send it as a parameter. So let's comply to that, and we will send the class instance variable name, or we could send the variable n, which has the value of the name locally at that stage. Now to build the method public, it will return the membership number, so therefore it will return a string. The name of the method is gen number, and it should receive a string variable, and locally I'm just going to call it n. So the moment that we call the method, the value name will be transferred to the variable n, and we will use it in that method as a local variable. Okay, begin. Let's first declare a local variable temp as a string variable to build our string, and we can initialize it to an empty string to start. The first thing we want to do is to copy the first 3 characters of the name, and we can say temp is equal to n, which is the local variable that has the name at the moment, dot substring, and as first beginning parameter we say start at character 0 and continue until character 3. 3 minus 0 is 3, so it will copy 3 characters. The next thing is to generate the random integer number. Let's declare a local variable number as an integer, and we will use the math class function random, which will generate a random number between 0,0 and 0,1. We will therefore multiply it by 10 because we want an integer digit between 0 and 10. And to apply casting, we must first do the multiplication, so that must be in brackets there. After we've multiplied it by 10, we will apply the casting. Casting means that the data type on the right hand side, random, method returns a double. We multiply it by 10, resulting in, for example, 4,45, but we want to get rid of the decimal part, therefore we cast it into an integer variable and store it into the variable num. We want to repeat that process 3 times. So we can say copy and paste. Make sure that you do not redeclare the variable num. and paste. We must make sure that we capture the value of the variable num each time before we regenerate a new number. So we can say temp is equal to temp plus num. So by saying temp is equal to temp plus num, we make sure that we add it to the already three copied characters of the name. We add the number there, just concatenate it to the end, and we can copy that line again, copy and redo that there, like that, and lastly there. Then you can return the temp. A more effective way to do this would be to use a for loop, because we see a repetitive task being done, generating the random number and adding that to the string variable temp. So let's just change that to use a for loop. We will say for int, let's use j as loop control variable, initialize it as 1, let's start at 1, and j must be smaller or equal to 3, that's your upper boundary, and you will say j++. That's the beginning of the for loop, and then the body of the for loop should be generate a random number and add that to temp. That whole process needs to be repeated 3 times, and then we can delete the unnecessary part. And that should do it for now. Okay, so let's review. We have the class named client. Underneath that we have the instance variables or the fields, which is encapsulated and protected inside the class, meaning no external classes can access them directly. Then we start with the constructor, and the constructor has the same name as the class, client. There is no return type, there is no void, you just say public client. You use a capital letter and you use therefore the same name as the name of the class. And it can have parameters, as in this instance, where the values of n and s is assigned directly to the instance variables of the class. Then later we have created a method called get generate number, which will generate the client number, and it has a return type of string. Therefore at the bottom you have to return a value. The value that the method has painstakingly built has to be returned back. So where you call membership number is equal to generate number name, it will return the value there and store it into the instance variable member number. Write the following methods. First, accessor methods are required for all fields. Remember, the instant variables are protected inside the class, and the only way to access it from an outside class is by creating accessor methods. A mutator method must be written for the name field. So the name field should be changed through the mutator method, and then a method must be written to adjust the fees owing. The method must either increase the fees owing or decrease the fees owing according to a parameter that is passed. That is also an example of a mutator method, because the fees is also changed by use of this method. Firstly, our 4 instance variables needs accessor methods so that it can be accessed from outside the client class. At the top we have the get member number, the get name, the get surname, and the get fees. What do we know about accessor methods? They all start with the word get. They will always return a value. They return the value of the specific instance variable for which they are written, and they are the only way for other classes to access the instance variables. Next, let's look at the mutator methods. We have the set name and the set fees. The set name method receives the name, the new name, as parameter, and then just overrides the instance variable name with that new value. The set fees receives a parameter f, and then that will be added to the current instance variable fees. So the fees of the client will be increased or decreased by the amount sent as parameter, depending on whether it was a positive or a negative number. What do we know about mutator methods? They all start with the word set. They do not return a value, therefore they have the word void in front of the method. Most of the time they receive a parameter with which to change a specific instance variable, as we can see in the set name and the set fees method. Write a toString method which will combine the fields in the class separated by tabs. So this method should return a string. ToString starts with a lowercase because it is a method name. We declare a temporary variable of type string, and then we just concatenate all the variables together separated by tabs: membership number, name, surnames, and fees. After we've built the output string, we return that output string to wherever it's being called. Here we can see a graphical representation of our client class. On the left hand side we can see that we have our instant variables, our fields, also known as attributes or properties, and they are all private and protected. Therefore I've colored it green. In the orange block we can see all the methods that are accessible from outside this specific class, with the exception of the generate number, which was declared private because it is basically just used in this class to generate the random number for the client called from the constructor. On the right hand side you can see a diagram frequently used in exams to indicate also the different fields. You can see the private fields are indicated with a hyphen. All the public methods are indicated with a plus, and again on the right hand side we see that generate number also is indicated with a hyphen because it is a private method in this specific class. Create a class called client array with an array field to store 50 clients. Also include a field to store the number of elements in the array. On the left hand side you can see our normal client class, and on the right hand side you can see the class diagram of the client array. Here is another graphical representation of our client array class that we are about to create. It will consist of two fields. The one will be the array of client objects, and the other one will keep track of the number of elements. Here you can see what we are actually doing is we are adding in each and every array element a object of client, type client. So we are creating an array of objects. Graphical representation of the client array class. On the green block we can see the two fields, instance variables, your array, and then the I count, which will keep track of how far the array is filled. In the orange block we see the methods, the constructor, the toString method, which will call the toString method for the client class and add new lines to each and every call, the sort method and the search method. On the right hand side you can see the class diagram, again displayed in question papers, and the program Unimoser was used to create that.